Hi, welcome to 90% Knitting. I'm Lisa, your host, also known as Fiber Nymph on Ravelry and Instagram. And I am not recording a regular episode today. This is just a short special episode for shop news purposes, as there will be a shop update coming up this Friday. I will record my next regular episode probably early next week. I'm going to be away at TNNA, leaving tomorrow, coming back Sunday, so I should have all kinds of fun things to tell you about. But again, there will be an update in the shop this Friday at 9 a.m. I know, weird time. I don't usually do morning updates. I'm pretty consistent with evening updates, but since I will be at TNNA on Friday, and I know I have evening commitments taking place Friday night, I decided to do it Friday morning when I know that I will not be distracted or need to get up and leave a room in order to take care of updating. So we're going to go with that. I hope that works for you. Maybe everybody's on their relaxed summertime schedule now, and a Friday morning with your coffee and the kids playing because they're out of school. Hopefully that works for you. Lots of new things going into the shop this week. I'm really excited about this update because I originally thought this was going to be probably a small update. Considering how much I've been traveling recently, and when I'm traveling, I'm not at home dying. However, it's actually turned out to be a pretty nice update. I am so excited to share with you. I've got two new self-striping colorways, one of which is a new pie colorway. I've got some new mini sets to share with you. I've got sock blanks. I actually hand painted this week. And I've got fiber because, as I said in the podcast last time, Tour de Fleece will be starting July 1st. So time to stock up with some fun new fiber to spin for that. And in addition to all of those things that I get to show you, I have 3 new custom order listings that I've just put into the shop this morning. One of which is brand new, and the other 2 have been there, but I have redone them, and there are now more options added to them. So I'm going to tell you about all of that. Let's get started. What should we begin with? The self-striping? How about the new pie colorway? Okay, for those of you who are maybe new to my shop and don't know what we're talking about with pie colorways, I'm not necessarily, well, actually I am. I am referring to pie as in P-I-E, but I'm also referring to pie as in P-I, the number, okay, 3.14159, it goes on infinitely, literally infinitely, without repeating. Back, I want to say 2 years ago, I created a colorway called Pie Day, P-I Day, for March 15th, 3.15. And it was a colorway based on the self-striping pattern, 5 stripes, and the stripe widths are based on the sequence of the numerals in pi. Okay, so they're relative. I've had some people email me sometimes and say, okay, so how big should this be? Well, that's all dependent on your gauge. But basically, whenever I create the pie colorway, each of the stripes is relative to each other, is sized based on the relativity of the numbers in pi. So the first stripe represents the 3. The second stripe, the width of it will represent the 1, which means it will be only 1/3 of the width of the 3. The next one is 4, so it will be 4 times as big as the 1, if you understand what I mean. All of my pie colorways, I either put mock-ups in there so you can see the colorway illustrated, or I take a picture, and if it's one that has a variegated stripe, I usually knit up a sample and take a picture, which is the case with the new one that I'm going to introduce today. So anyway, that was my first pie colorway back in March, I believe, of 2015, I want to say. And since then, I have added several other pie colorways. There's been a second helping of pie, and at that point I started adding the E in parentheses because it's kind of the play on words. The pie colorways are usual, well, they began, the colors not only the stripes represented the numbers, the colors represented flavors of pie. in the first one. In the second one, the second helping of pie, same thing, just different flavors. My third one was the darker side of pie, which I made. The colors represent berries and fruits that are poisonous, and you would probably not want to make a pie out of those. So that's why that was called the darker side of pie. I did one for Halloween last year called Hallow Pie, and so those flavors verged into a little bit more whimsical flavors. Then last year, late fall into spring of this year, I had the Pie of the Every Other Month Club. And that was 3 different pie colorways that shipped out every other month. Those are not yet available in the shop because I always wait at least 6 months from the time they're released in the club. So the first one of those that went out in December last year, I'll start putting that into the shop in July, so not too much longer. But all 3 of those, again, were a little bit more whimsical with their flavors because you can only do so much with real pie flavors. But this one that I created for you this week verges back into reality a little bit more. And I am calling this the Edible Petal Pie colorway. And here it is. And let me explain the inspiration for this. It's basically gardening inspired because every year at this time I start thinking about my garden, and this year my garden's not happening. I'm just admitting to myself that I do not have time to garden, and so I'm not even going to try. But it does not stop me from looking at things and reading and dreaming about stuff. And lately I've really been well, I've always been into herbs, but I've also been into reading and learning about plants that occur naturally, or flowers, things that you don't necessarily think about eating, but that are edible. And petals were one of them. And so and you know what, there's a lot. Honestly, between you and I, there's going to probably be an edible petal pie too coming as well, because there were so many to pick from, and I had to pick 5 for this one, so I think another one might be coming. But anyway, this one, these 5 colors represent the following 5 flowers whose petals are edible. Now, I realize you're probably not going to fill an entire pie with edible petals, but you could always decorate your pie with petals. We decorate cakes with them all the time. Salads. I mean, I know this is an edible salad pie, but you know what I mean. They're edible, even if you maybe would not fill a whole pie with them. Although I love that mental image, kind of like the pictures from, what was that nursery rhyme where the birds come out of the pie? I just love the visual image of a pie bursting and all these really pretty flower petals coming out of it. But I digress. So let's talk about edible petal pie. This first stripe, which is also here, a little bit larger, this one represents chive flowers. If you've ever grown chives in an herb garden, you know they get this really pretty light purple. Actually, it's a variegated purple, light to darker purple flower, fluffy flower on the top. They're really pretty and they taste great. So this is the chive flower. The next one, which this is the bigger stripe of it down here, so it's easier to see. This one represents violets, or pansies actually, not violets, pansies. I was going to do violets. Violets may be in the next one. This is pansies. And if you know, pansies have that darker violet, and then they have that gold, that yellow gold in it. So I did a variegated stripe. The gold did sort of mute the whole stripe a little bit, but that is still what its representation is, and I like it. I love the look of how it turned out. So we have got chive flowers, and we've got pansies, and then we've got this one, which is nasturtiums. I did not know that nasturtium flowers are edible, but they are. So we've got nasturtiums, and then we've got daisies, just plain old white daisies. They have the little yellow in the middle. But I just chose to do the white daisies. And then blue is for borage, and that's the borage flower. It's a very pretty, just sort of a cornflower blue. So those are the 5 edible petals that are being represented in this Pie Day colorway. I knit up this sample. I was planning, I usually just do like the first so many repeats, but since this is a colorway that does not repeat, because pi is not a repeating number, I decided to go a little further, especially because this colorway, the variegated stripe, the first 2 repeats of it were very, very small, and I wanted you to be able to see a better representation of it. So I had to go down to here. And once I got down to here, I just kind of wanted to keep going. I knit this sample out of my Traveler Sport Weight base, actually. I usually do my sock samples in fingering weight, but for whatever, oh, actually the reason was because I did not have needles suitable for fingering weight, but I did have needles available to me that would work with sport weight. That's why I chose to do it in sport. So anyway, this is Edible Petal Pie, and I do have one more skein on the Traveler Sport Weight, and then I also have 2 skeins on Bedazzled and 2 skeins on Bounce. As with all of my pie colorways, when I reskein them, I always tie a stitch marker to the end of the skein that begins the striping pattern, so that if you want to know that you're starting with that very first stripe that represents the digit, the 3 at the beginning of pie, start with the end that has the stitch marker on it, and that's the beginning of the numeric sequence. So, Edible Petal Pie, that is going up into the shop. Okay, so next up is the other new self-striping colorway, and I did talk about this recently, I believe. If you ordered the Splash Pad Party, the special colorway, the Bold Berry Swirl Splash Pad Parfait colorway, I know, huge name. That was actually the very first colorway in this new collection of self-striping swirl colorways. However, that one is exclusive to the Splash Pad Party for this summer, so I will not be adding that to the shop until after well, probably in September. But I do have plans for several other swirl colorways, and the first one that I am putting up for you guys is Margarita Swirl, because who doesn't love margaritas in the summertime, right? So the swirl colorways, the whole swirl aspect of it is there is a nice big variegated stripe in each swirl colorway that is sandwiched between 2 smaller stripes that are not variegated. They are the semi-solids. So in this one, we have this nice bright green stripe representing just the plain old lime margarita, your basic margarita, which happens to be my favorite margarita. I love those. I took some artistic license because usually your lime margaritas are not quite this vivid of a green, but honestly though, some of the frozen ones I've had do actually have that kind of really bright green. But anyway, so we've got lime margaritas. And then this stripe here, which is really kind of getting blown out because of the light, but this stripe is more your strawberry margarita. So if you like those fun, fruity margaritas, here's your strawberry margarita. But this stripe in the middle, this variegated stripe, let me see if this side is maybe, there we go, we'll do this side. Depending on how the variegation plays out. And this light is definitely trying to get, oh, is that better? Okay. Well, the variegated stripe, that one is representing the tropical sunset margarita. I got online. See, I love my job because it lets me research really interesting things. And in this case, I was researching margaritas and found margarita recipes. So I might have to try those this summer. But anyway, I found the one that was the tropical sunset margarita that had pineapple juice and mango juice, plus I think crushed up mango or pureed mango maybe, and grenadine in it. So you had this really cool kind of gradation of the gold and yellow of the pineapple, and then the orange of the mango, and then that cherryish red of the grenadine at the bottom. And so those are the 3 colors that are swirled into this tropical sunset stripe. Is the gold for the pineapple, the orange for the mango, and then some cherry red for the grenadine. So that is Margarita Swirl. I love this colorway. I'm definitely going to be finishing these socks. You know, doing new colorways like this that require me to knit samples is basically just increasing the number of projects that I have for Stash Dash this summer. I guess it's not a bad thing, but somewhere along the line, something's got to give. Anyway, so I'm knitting this sample up on Bedazzled. I don't know if you can see the sparkles in there. There you go. You can kind of see them. I'm knitting this one up on Bedazzled. There is one more skein of Bedazzled. And then there are 2 skeins in Traveler, the sport weight, and 2 skeins of Bounce as well. So those will be in the shop for you. Okay, so those are the only flat out self-stripings that I've got going into the shop this week, but since they're new, I thought that was a good thing to offer. We're going to move on to minis because my minis are also self-striping related. And I decided to do mini sets. And what the mini sets are going to look like when you get them will look like this. But what they actually are quarter skeins. So these will be 25 grams. And they're actually 2 separate ones. So you're going to get a 25-gram skein. These are all in Bounce, so 25 grams equals 80 yards. No, equals 100 yards. I'm sorry, 20 grams is 80 yards. 25 grams is 100 yards of a self-striping colorway, and then 25 grams of a semi-solid that coordinates with that. So this one is my Cosmic colorway, and this is Electric Purple that goes with it. So there will be 4 sets of each of these. This one, the self-striping, is So Berry Limey, and the semi-solid is Navy. The pictures, when I put these up in the shop, will show them like this, and I will show them opened up in their individual skeins as well, so you can get a good look at both. This set is Northern Lights is the self-striping, and then the semi-solid is Dark Chocolate Raspberry. And lastly, and this one's actually my favorite, I love this one, the self-striping is Chrysocolla, and Chrysocolla is a gemstone actually, if you didn't know. And then the lighter one is Sand, which I love both of these colors. I love all of the colors in Chrysocolla, and Sand has very quickly replaced my silver gray as my favorite neutral semi-solid, light neutral semi-solid. I love this color anymore. Anyway, so these are the 4 different sets of stripes and semi-solid minis that will be in the shop. Again, there's 4 of each of these. You know, these are larger skeins. Like I said, usually I just do 20-gram skeins when I do mini sets. These are a little larger. Honestly, you could probably do like a mini socks with them, like for a kid or something, like shorty socks. I don't know. I haven't really researched the yardage required for that. But anyway, you can definitely do lots of Afghan squares, lots of heels and toes. You could add some fun striping to some sort of project that you're doing. I mean, there's an endless array of things to do with minis. There always is. So that is what I've got for you for minis, and I need to kind of put this together a little bit here just so that it doesn't get messed up. So let me twist this back up again. Okay, there we go. We're back together. All right, so those are the minis. Let's show you the sock blanks. So I decided I wanted to hand paint this week. I don't do it a lot because it's really pretty time consuming. And again, I'm not an Andre Sue kind of hand painter, or even like a Gale's Art kind of hand painter. I don't do those very, detail oriented hand painting. That's not my thing. I am much more of a free flow, freehand, free spirit kind of hand painter. And that's what I did on these blanks. I've got 6 different ones for you. And let's see. All right, we'll start with this one. This one has sort of a pale peachy pink background, and I hand painted lots of really crazy flowers that have speckles all over them. And this is one of my Happenstance with Sparkle blanks, so it's got the stellina in it. So I did these flowers first, and I thought, okay, those were cool. I've kind of done flowers similar to this in the past, but I thought, what if I did really big flowers? So that's what I did next. And I did that. There's one more without sparkle that has that peachy pink background. And I did these crazy big outline flowers. I love these. These are so much fun. And they have speckles, again, going over top of everything, but they're just nice, bright colors. That's what I love to do with sock blanks. Love these big, bold motifs and all the bright colors. Anyway, so there is that. Then I thought, I need to do more big flowers. So the next batch, which again, there's one on sparkle and one with no sparkle, and these two have a very pale blue background, and they, again, have really big, bright, bold colored flowers with speckles. So as you knit these up, you're going to get all of those colors going through your sock, and it's just going to be so much fun. So that was the sparkle one, and here is the one that does not have sparkle, but it again has the light blue background and the big bold flowers and all of the speckles. It's just so much fun. Then for the last two, I decided, okay, maybe not everybody's really into big bold flowers the way I am. So I decided to do another motif that I actually have done on sock blanks before. And this is more along the lines of, it always kind of reminds me of a pinball machine, but basically something with marbles or pinballs or gumballs maybe. And that is, I create these little paths. Actually, they're big, bold paths. And then we've got all of these fun pops, these big, we'll call them marbles or gumballs, following along that path. And of course, we have got lots and lots of awesome bright speckles going along there too. So this one has, I would say it's a medium yellow base to it, base color, with all of those bright colors on top. And this is the regular one. And then here's the other one with sparkle in it. And this one, instead of having the rounded pathway, this one has a more angular, curvy pathway to it, if that makes any sense. So again, just fun. You know, these are so much fun to do. Sock blanks in general, fun to do because they all turn out differently. Even if I'm doing the same motif or the same colors, they all turn out differently. They all have their own personality, and that just makes them a lot of fun to work with. And it makes them fun to knit with, I think, because everybody can knit these up and they're all going to look different, even the ones that have the same flowers and stuff on them. So that's the sock blank offering for this week. Lastly, things I can show you, fiber. Okay, so I need to get my list so that I don't mistell you what I've got here. I dyed up fiber, four different types of fiber. And the first one, I've got some Falkland. So I did up some Smooth Sailing Sunny Skies in Falkland. Now, if you remember seeing this on yarn, you know it is a speckled colorway. And the braid is also speckled. But the thing about speckling fiber is that unlike yarn, I mean, yarn does it to a certain degree, but fiber really diffuses those speckles. So they really bleed into the fiber, and so you get much larger areas. Like, okay, so see, these were speckles whenever I put them on there. But the fiber just takes it and wicks that dye through it. So it just becomes much more open. I have to be careful when I do fiber not to over speckle, because if you get too much color in there speckling, it just becomes muddy because of all that diffusion going on. So I try to be careful with that, but I really like how this turned out. It's much more muted than the actual colorway on yarn, but then fiber is always much more muted than the same colorways on yarn. So there will be two of each of these except for one, and I'll let you know which one. But this is Smooth Sailing Sunny Skies on Falkland, and then Dickinson on Falkland, which this was one of my Antigua collection colorways. And again, it was speckled, and it does have some speckling, but not as obvious as in the yarn. Okay, so there are those. Then I had a little bit of mixed BFL left in my fiber collection, only enough to do one skein or one braid though. So this mixed BFL I dyed up in the Half Moon colorway, which is another one of my Antigua colorways. A lot of golds with some flecks in it, which again they've blended into the fiber. But again, this is the mixed BFL, so it has the light excuse me, the light fiber, and then it's got this natural darker, like you can see those streaks in there, this kind of striping. That's the actual BFL, the blue-faced Leicester, the darker color mixed together. And so it just gives it so much depth. I love working with this. I need to order more in my next fiber order so that I can dye more of it, because I just love what the colorways look like when it's dyed up on that. So there will only be one braid of the Half Moon. Okay, next up, oh wait, no, there's 2 braids of Half Moon, but there's only one colorway on Half Moon. That's what it was. Sorry, didn't mean to confuse things. There are 2 Half Moons. Okay. Let me go with this next. I did some BFL silk. So this is a 75-25 blend of BFL fiber and Tussa silk. None of my fibers are superwash, just so you know. So these will all felt if you're not careful. But this one I did in the Pink Cadillac colorway, which is one of the colors from the new Colors of Classic Rock collection that I have. And this one is an oldie but a goodie, and I love making this colorway. This is Taste the Rainbow. This one, I do a couple, like I have my Rainbow Riot colorway that I do sometimes. That Rainbow Riot colorway uses all 6 dyes in all 6 of the rainbow colors. But for Taste the Rainbow, this is an organic rainbow because I only use the red, the yellow, and the blue dye. And then I apply it to the fiber in such a way that I can mush it together. That's a really technical dyeing term, mush it together. And create the color blends for the secondary colors. So between the red and the yellow, you get the orange. Between the yellow and the blue, you get the green. And then at the other end, between the blue, and then I put some extra red at that end and mush it together and get the purple. It's more of a berry purple, but it's still a purple. So that's what we've got. So this is Taste the Rainbow on BFL silk. And then lastly, on Polworth, which is the super squishy Polworth. I love Polworth. I did 2 gradients. I have 2 different techniques for dyeing gradients on fiber. One creates more of a color block, the hard break type of gradient, the same way I do on yarn. Like all of my yarn gradients are color block gradients. Like you have a very definitive point where one color ends and the other color starts. Sometimes I do my fiber gradients that way as well. But for these 2, I chose to do a different technique that I would say is more of a soft gradient. There's more of a melding of the colors. Yeah. So both of these actually are colorways that I did as I was dyeing, like I created them on the fly basically. I have a colorway called Winter Solstice Sunrise that I love, but it's not winter, it's summer here anyway in the United States. So I wanted to do a summer one, and so I ended up doing Summer Solstice Sunset. So this one starts out with this really pretty gold in the middle, and then it works its way, which way do I go? I'm looking in the monitor, so I have to go backwards. So it works its way this way into an orange, but you can see how it still blends. You see how there's some yellow and orange blending together, going back into here, and then this orange section, actually you can see the orange a little bit better on this side. The orange section works its way into this sunsetty pinkish red. But again, you can see how that all blends really softly together. And the fiber helps that too, again, because fiber just diffuses and wicks that dye. So I love this one. I love oranges. Can you tell? I mean, I've got a lot of orange in colorways this week. But this is Summer Solstice Sunset on Falkland, or I'm sorry, on Polworth. And then the other one on Polworth, I have not yet dyed. I'm not really sure what I'm going to call it yet, but it's some of my favorite colors that I end up putting together in so many different iterations. But here it is. But again, it's another one of those soft gradients. I'll show you this side. So it starts with a silvery gray in the middle, and it works its way out to a turquoise blue and blends together. And then the turquoise blends into the purple. So you've got turquoise and purple working together here in this little area. And then you get out here into the purple, and then the purple ends up gently blending into this darker peacock blue that is interesting because it sort of breaks at points and almost has a greenish cast to it. So there will be 2 of these yet to be named. Stay tuned, but you'll recognize it if you're seeing it here. You'll know what it is. It's the other one that's on Polworth. Okay, so that is everything that I am physically putting in the shop this week. Now, I mentioned that I have 3 new custom order listings in the shop. The 2 that have already been there that I redid are for semi-solids. I've always had a listing for a custom order for a full skein of a semi-solid color on bounce, and I've also had a half skein option that you could custom order a semi-solid color on bounce. Well, those are both still there, but I've revamped them, and now instead of just being on bounce, you can custom order them on a bunch of my different bases. The full skein options are bounce, bedazzled, traveler, which is my sport weight, Bonafide, which is DK, Cozy, which is worsted, or Mega, which is the bulky weight. Half skein options are all of those except Mega. Mega is only 105 yards, so to give you a half a skein of Mega would just be a super, super short amount of yarn. So I'm just keeping that one for the full skein. Okay, so those are there. They look a little bit different, but if you are looking for them, you can go all the way to the bottom of the main shop page. I don't know if you've ever noticed this, but if you go on the main shop page, sometimes it'll show you everything in the shop, but if there's a lot of things in the shop, it won't. It'll stop after a while. So go over to that right-hand sidebar and click all. If you click all, you'll see everything that's in the shop on that page. Or you can click custom order items, and that will show you those 2 listings as well. At any rate, they are at the very bottom of all the listings, but they're there, and you can order those anytime. Anytime they start to run out, I always just add more to it because I'm always happy to do those. It does say that my standard turnaround time for those is 4 to 6 weeks, which is true. However, with semi-solids, I usually get those out much, much faster than that because semi-solids are pretty easy to do, so I can squeeze those into my dye schedule pretty easily. Okay, so those are 2 of the custom order items. The other one I'm really excited to be offering to you, and that is a Pie Day custom order. So we've got 4 regular Pie Day colorways out now. The original Pie Day, a second helping of pie, the darker side of pie, and Hallow Pie, which was the Halloween color last year. Those 4 are available, and I have made them available in this custom order listing, and you can just order them anytime you want. I have not added this new one that I'm introducing this week yet because I want to get that into the shop as a regular listing for, this time plus at least once more before I make that available as a custom listing. But as soon as that's ready, which I think I said in the listing July 1st, I'll make that available as a custom listing colorway as well. So, and then the colorways from last year's Pie of the Every Other Month Club, as soon as that 6-month period is up, I'm going to start putting them in the shop. I'll put them in the shop like once or twice, and then I will make those available as custom order items as well. So every day is a good day for pie from now on because you can order your Pie Day colorways anytime you want. And in addition to being able to choose which colorway you want, you can also choose which base you want. I made those available. You can order them on Bounce, on Bedazzled, on Heavenly, which is my MCN base, Traveler, the sport weight again, Bonafide, which is DK, and Worsted, which is my Cozy base. So you have lots of options. Basically, for any of those ones that I just talked about that have different yarn bases, you choose that in the drop-down menu on the product item page, the listing page in the shop. And then what you need to do is email me after you've placed your order and let me know what colorway you want. And that goes for the semi-solids or the pie colorways. There's a contact me link on the shop page. There's also like a note to seller blank when you're in PayPal. I think usually, unless you do express PayPal, you may not have that. But either way, you can use that note, or you can send me an email, or you can just email me directly if you miss it through the shop. And my email address is fibernymph@gmail.com. Just email me, let me know which colorway you'd like, and I will get that dyed up. And on the chance that you forget to email me or don't know how to contact me, I will get in touch with you if I receive an order for any of those custom listings and I don't hear from you with regard to your colorway choice. I'll let you know. So that's everything. That felt like a lot, and I feel like I've been talking for a long time. So I'm going to go and let you have at it. I'm going to get to work now putting all of these listings up in the shop, so they will be there in preview mode before the end of the day. Since I'm leaving tomorrow for my trip, I have to have them up today. So that's my job for the rest of today. If you have any questions about anything going into the shop, please feel free to email me or PM me on Ravelry, and I will be happy to answer your questions. I hope you saw something that you absolutely love. And yeah, that's it. Like I said, I will be back next week with a regular 90% knitting episode. And until then, I will wish you a happy week, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.